Hey everyone, welcome and thanks so much for checking out my channel. My name is Tanny and I am an independent author and somebody who really just loves a good story. So on this channel I talk about writing, books I've enjoyed, and lessons I've learned on my publishing journey. Today I just want to do sort of a reading/writing wrap-up kind of video and look at the goals that I've accomplished for the first half of 2021, and then look at maybe setting some new goals that I want to work on over the next few months. I've seen other writers and even booktubers do like these quarterly reading or writing goals, and I think that could be really helpful for me. I think I've said this before, but I'm really not the most organized person. I don't like schedules and deadlines and things like that. I don't like planning things. I don't like setting tight deadlines for myself and making schedules and really micromanaging myself like that. It's really hard for me and it just stresses me out, so I don't do it. But I do think that if I made kind of some loose plans and some really flexible deadlines and goals for myself, that would be helpful and would kind of keep me on track a little bit more than I am currently. At the end of May and kind of in the beginning of June, I kind of got into a really bad slump where I just didn't really feel like working on anything. And part of that was because I just didn't know what I was supposed to be working on. I had all these different projects and they weren't huge. Most of them weren't super big or overwhelming, but I just couldn't like focus and figure out what I was supposed to be doing and what I was supposed to be working on first. So I kind of just became paralyzed by the decision making and just didn't do anything, which, is really helpful if you're trying to get stuff done. And then I just felt worse because I didn't accomplish anything and kind of got into this negative spiral, and it really wasn't good for myself and my mental health. So I would really like to avoid that going forward. And I think that setting some goals would be helpful for me. I am somebody who I'm just very creative and I kind of need a creative outlet of some sort. So if I'm not doing something or working on something that is creative, it starts to take a toll on me after a while. So I want to be working on those projects and doing those creative things, but I think I just need a little more direction sometimes about what I should be working on, or at least some options and some ideas of when certain things need to be done by, so I know, what direction to go in and what to work on. I think this will be a good way for me to just kind of look back every few months and see what I have accomplished. Sometimes I get into this place where I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything and it feels like I've not done anything, and really I have if I look back and think about it a little bit. But I think this will just be a good way to kind of keep me on track and let me know where I'm at and remind myself of what I have accomplished and what things need to be worked on in the future. So I'm just going to start by looking at some of the goals that I kind of loosely set for myself. These weren't super formalized and I didn't have a exact plan in mind, but these were some things that I kind of had in the back of my head that I wanted to work on and accomplish. The biggest thing that I wanted to accomplish and that was kind of really prominent on my radar was to finish Tethered Spirits and get that out to beta readers. And I am super excited to say that I did accomplish that goal. It got out to the first round of beta readers and it's currently out with my second round of beta readers, so we're doing really good with that one. And that goal was really huge for me and I'm really proud of myself for reaching that goal. I think because it just took a really long time to get there. It really has felt like this book has taken me forever to write, and a lot of that is just because of 2020 and the chaotic mess that year was. I know it was really chaotic and awful for a lot of people, and it was hard for me in different ways and easier in some ways than I think it was for a lot of people, but I definitely had some challenges and unexpected adjustments that I had to make. And so in all of 2020, I just really didn't get as much work done on Tethered Spirits as I wanted to. And I think honestly, I just didn't set very realistic expectations for myself because the book is so long. Like obviously it's going to take longer to write, but I've never written anything that long before. And so I kind of had this idea in my head that I could just get it done in the same amount of time that I've written books that are half the length that Tethered Spirits is. And obviously that's just not super realistic. So I think I kind of set myself up for disappointment with that. But anyways, we're past that now, and the book is out with beta readers, and it feels really good to have that done and to know that we're a little closer to finally getting it published. In the first half of this year, I also outlined / zero drafted the sequel to Tethered Spirits, and that book is called Riven Empire. It's a really detailed outline that I have, and that's why I call it a zero draft. Honestly, I just need to start calling my outlines zero drafts at this point because they're so detailed and long that they're kind of just drafts in and of themselves, which is kind of a new process for me, but that's okay. But I think I would like to start drafting that before Tethered Spirits even releases. We'll just kind of have to see where the timeline is with that. I also, during the first half of this year, wrote and illustrated a collection of microfiction that I'm going to be publishing in August. Not all of the illustrations are done, but all of the stories are done. It's been edited and revised, and a lot of the formatting is done, so I just have to finish those illustrations and plug those into the book. But that was a big accomplishment for me also, and I'm just super excited that I get to publish that this year and share it with everyone. And then this last goal is kind of writing related, but kind of not. I didn't actually have to do a ton except listen to the audiobook, but I did have 2 of my audiobooks come out this year, and I'm really excited that those are done and that readers can enjoy the book in that format now. I have become a huge fan of audiobooks over the last year or so, and so it's awesome to be able to have the stories come to life in that way and to be able to share that with readers. So Calico Thunder Rides Again now has an audiobook version, and the narrator did a really phenomenal job with that. That was kind of my first experience with making an audiobook, and so I learned a lot along the way, and maybe I'll make a video about that process at some point. But I really enjoyed going through that process and listening to the book and seeing all the characters come to life with the narrator's performance. It was really fun and exciting. Secrets of Peace also now has an audiobook, and the audiobook for Renegades of Peace is currently in the works, and it's really close to being finished if it's not already finished by the time this video comes out. As far as my reading goals go, I set a goal for myself to read 50 books this year. That's kind of where I set it the last year, and that worked out really well for me, and I was able to finish that goal, and so I just kind of set the same goal for this year. And I have read 40 books already, which is awesome, and I'm really excited about that. Some of those books have just been beta reads that I've done for other writers. A couple of them were the audiobooks that I've written myself that I then had to go and listen to and kind of proofread and things like that just to make sure everything sounded right. But I counted those also because it's still, I still had to reread them, so we might as well count them towards our reading goal for the year. Of those 40 books, I've just discovered some really great ones and new favorites, and I'm really happy with the books that I've picked up and read this year. I haven't had any major duds or anything. I did have a couple that maybe didn't live up to my expectations fully, or that were kind of just a little bit of a letdown, but nothing that I absolutely hated and regretted reading, or I don't think I've even had any that I had to DNF, which is really awesome. I think I'm getting better at picking books that I will enjoy and just kind of being able to skip over ones that I think are not going to be as interesting to me. So that's been really good too. And if this keeps up, then it may very well be my best reading year ever. We'll just kind of have to see where we're at by the end of the year, but so far I'm definitely on track to finish that goal, and I'm super excited about that. Now I kind of want to move into talking about the goals that I want to work on for this third quarter of the year. And so that will be from July to the end of September. So first, looking at some of the writing goals that I want to work on. Obviously, the most important one right now is to finish the illustrations for my microfiction collection. That's releasing in August, but I'd really like to have all of the illustrations done by the end of July, so that I can do the proof copies and order those and make sure that all of the images printed correctly. A lot of times I have found that the images that I put in my books don't always print correctly through Amazon, or they don't print the same as what they appear on the screen. And so I anticipate that I'll probably have to do at least a couple of proof copies of my microfiction collection just to make sure that everything comes out looking good. So I definitely want to get that finished up sooner rather than later. And then I just have all of the stuff that goes along with the publication of that book. I have some pre-order goodies that I might need to send out, and then just all the marketing stuff that goes along with a book release. This is kind of a more low-key book release for me. It's not a huge deal. It's just kind of a for fun little project that I did on the side. But I do still want people to, buy it and read it. So we probably should do some kind of marketing. I also have a couple of short stories that I'm working on for Tethered Spirits. One is from the point of view of Lucian, and one is from the point of view of Mitul, and both of them are secondary characters in that book. And they're going to be like prequel short stories that I'll probably end up sending to my newsletter subscribers, or maybe just putting up on my website. I'm not sure yet. Mitul's short story is called A Song of Farewell, and Lucian's short story is going to be called Before the Fire. And I would really like to have those finished up before my beta readers send back their feedback about Tethered Spirits. And then once I do get the feedback returned from my beta readers, then I need to do another round of revisions on Tethered Spirits. I don't know that I will actually be able to finish that particular goal by the end of September, but I do want to be at least halfway through. I also should be able to have a better idea of how much work this story needs so that I can announce a official release date and start setting up pre-orders and things like that, and do a cover reveal as well, which means that I need to finish the cover for Tethered Spirits. It's getting close. It's almost done. Sort of. It's sort of almost done, but it's still, there's still a lot. And then I really just kind of want to focus on taking better care of my physical health, because I feel like that really impacts my writing too. If I'm not getting enough sleep and if I'm not eating very well, I can kind of tell a difference in just like my level of energy, and my mental functioning tends to be worse when I'm not focusing on those things. And so I really need to just get my butt in gear and start working on that again. The beginning of this year was kind of rough for me, honestly, and since January I've really just been prioritizing my mental health and really focusing on that and going back to therapy and doing some stuff in that area. So I haven't been really making my physical health a priority, but now that I'm in a better place mentally and emotionally, I think it's time to kind of shift gears a little bit and focus more on the physical health stuff and just make sure that I'm, sleeping enough and eating healthy, and even getting any kind of physical activity at this point would be a drastic improvement from where I'm at right now. So we're going to try to work on some of those things this quarter as well. And then in terms of reading goals, I am kind of a big mood reader and just kind of pick up whatever sounds interesting to me in the moment, but I do kind of want to be a little more focused with the way that I'm reading and the books that I'm picking up. I have a bunch of indie audiobooks that I got as part of the In December prize package back in December 2020, and just bought a bunch of audiobooks with that, which was really awesome. But they're kind of just sitting in my Audible library, which, is not ideal. So I would like to read at least 5 of those books this quarter. That shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. A lot of them are shorter, and I currently don't really have any books on hold at the library that I'm waiting on. That's been kind of the issue, is that I get a lot of audiobooks through the library, and so I'll put them on hold, and then as they come in, I kind of just have to read them because they're due, in a couple weeks, and then I have to return them. So I don't have any on hold right now, so I think I'm just going to try to keep it that way and not put any more on hold, and we'll just really focus on getting some of the books in my Audible library finished. I also have an arc that I need to finish and review, and that is for The Goddess of Nothing at All by Kat Richter. And I started reading it and just read a few of the sample chapters first, and then requested an arc and was really excited to get one because I really enjoyed the sample chapters. I think that's coming out in September. I will put a link to Kat's YouTube channel and to the book and the pre-order down below if you want to check that out. It's really interesting and has been really enjoyable so far, so I'm looking forward to finishing that. And then I also have a bunch of series that I have started and not finished, so I've set a really low bar for myself to finish at least 2 of those series this quarter. I don't know why I do that or why I've been doing that more lately. I used to never do that. I used to just pick up a series and read the first book and then read all the books all the way to the end. But lately, I don't know. I just don't do that. I just pick up, the first book and I read it and then I'm like, oh, that was great. I can't wait to see what happens next. But obviously I can, because then I wait forever and don't find out what happens next because I'm reading other things, and then I never pick up the second or the third book or whatever. Let me just go through my list of all the series that I have that I haven't finished yet, just for fun. So we've got Fireborn, and that's very sad to me because I was super excited for Flamefall to come out, and it's sitting on the shelf behind me and I haven't touched it. And then there's also the Chaos Walking series. I am on the last book in that series of Monsters and Men, and for some reason it's just taking me a really long time to get through, and I don't know why. I think I started it like 2 months ago and I'm still like only a third of the way through it, which is strange because I flew through the first 2 as fast as I could, and this third one, I don't know why. Like, I'm still interested in it and I still want to read it. I'm just not actually reading it. I also have Stones of Light, which is the sequel to Voice of War, and that was an SBFBO book that I read and enjoyed. And then I started rereading the His Dark Materials series and finished The Golden Compass, but didn't pick up The Subtle Knife. I really enjoyed those books when I was a teenager. They were some of my favorites and kind of a big inspiration for my own writing back then. And so I thought it would be really fun to reread it, and it has been. I really enjoyed rereading the first book, but then I just haven't continued with the second book, so I should probably do that sometime. I also have the Abhorsen series on that list by Garth Nix. That was another reread for me and another book series that I really enjoyed when I was a teenager. And again, I read the first book and then just stopped and didn't continue. And I really want to. I don't remember very much about those ones. I remember the third book being like really emotionally impactful for me when I was a teenager. Like, I think it was one of the very few books that I read back then that made me cry. And so, but I don't remember the story at all. So I'm like really excited to find out what happens and what was so emotionally meaningful for me when I read it back then. But it's a long book. Like, the second book is so long, and I think the third book is really long too. And so that's hard for me. I don't know what it is about long books. I just get super intimidated by them, and then I just don't read them, which I don't know what's wrong with me. It used to not be that way. I used to not be so bothered by a long book, but I think it's just like the time investment now. I'm just like, oh, what if I don't like it? But this book, like, I'm 95% sure that I'll like it because I liked it back then. So I should just get over myself and read it, but we'll see when that happens. I also have the Silo series, which I started a long time ago and never finished. I think I got to book 2 and I was kind of annoyed that we just completely left behind the characters that we were following in book 1. And so I read a few chapters of it and then I was like, well, I don't like this anymore, so I'm done. So I do want to finish that eventually. I know a lot of people who have read it and really loved it. And then I also have the Amaranthi series by G.S. Jensen. That is a really long, epic science fiction space opera series. And it's really good, and G.S. Jensen is an indie author, and I really like her work and enjoy it. But I have a hard time with longer series. I don't know why. Again, like, maybe it's like longer books and I'm just intimidated by it or something. But anyways, she's released a couple of books, I think, since the last one of hers that I read, and I would like to catch up on that series before it gets to the point that she's released like 5 or 6 books that I haven't read yet, and then I'm just like, well, we're not gonna finish that, because that would be really sad, because I do really enjoy the story and the characters. And then I have the last book in the Magic Eaters trilogy by Carol Beth Anderson. She's also an indie author and someone whose work I've really enjoyed. I think I actually have that one in my Audible library, so that one might overlap with my Audible audiobook reading goal. So maybe I can work on that one and kind of kill two birds with one stone. And then I think the last one I have is the Saviors series by Jenna Moreci. I did read The Savior's Champion, and then since then she's released The Savior's Sister, and I haven't read that yet, but I would really like to. I think I have that one in audiobook also. There's a few on here that kind of overlap, so maybe I'll try to do both at once. We'll just kind of have to see how we feel about things as the months go along. Anyways, that's it for my goals this quarter. It does kind of seem like a lot, especially with all of the Tethered Spirit stuff. I do have a lot of work to do with that book, but I think that just looking at it and realizing that I have 3 months to get through all of that is helpful, and then I don't have to stress out about doing everything right away. I have some time to fit it all in, and I think it'll be okay. Leave a comment below and let me know what your reading and writing goals are this quarter. And then if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Please go enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.